Hello everyone. Today I want to give you a little guide on how to play Lucy, and I'm going to talk about her normals, her game plan, her setups, her block strings, and what combos to use. 5k is a great poke and fairly safe to her other normals. If we compare to her Fast Slash, this one has way more range, but it also has a lot of recovery, so you're more likely to get punished. With this one, it's a little quicker and you're a little safer, but also you don't really have the range, so that's a trade-off. Her 5p is generally used for like quick anti-airs. There's nothing much to say about it. A lot of characters have this one. 2p is one of her fastest defensive mash moves. You mash this out whenever you want to get out of the corner, whenever you think your opponent is going to go in and leave a gap, then you press this. It's 5 frames. It's decent. Then we have her 2k. It's a little slower, but it's especially nice when the opponent has you in a corner and he's spacing it out a little, so you press 5k and then maybe try to counter poke then where 5p doesn't reach. Her air moves are also pretty good. You can use JP to get people out of their air, kind of threaten them here, poke them out. Or you use a rising jump kick to snipe them as well. It's pretty nice. Or you can kind of play the keep away game and just backdash JS or try to preemptively hit them. If you'd rather stay on the ground, you can also use 6p, or you can throw out to H if you know they're gonna float above you. For example, like sniping Zato is really nice with this one because it goes so high. Her dress is nice for sniping approaches, and if the opponent tries to dash in, and you're kind of keeping them out with 5S, but they're slowly creeping up, so you can check them with 2S or something. Um, Otherwise, you also have a 2D, but this one is more used in combos. It's pretty decent though, but I don't see myself using this a lot in neutral. Then she has these follow-up normals that you can also frame trap with if you use 5H, for example, with 5SS, 5H, or you can use 2SS, which is in itself frame trap as well. You won't see 5k a lot unless for trying to frame trap, but it doesn't really have a neutral application. It has a lot of recovery frames and doesn't have the range that the other buttons have. Another move that is kind of niche to use is her JD. There are some applications, however, you won't see this move used as often because it has a lot of recovery time. But it's nice if you want to escape the corner, for example, or if you want to stall your opponent or try to bait his 6p, for example. Now we're getting to the specials, and there's a certain special effect she can apply to the opponent. It's called Short Nerve Circuit, and you'll see it in my combo notation when we're getting to the combo section. To apply the effect, you basically just use the mono wire. You need to charge it. There's also a charged minimum time. Normal mono wire is 16 frames, and if you charge it, is 32 frames. So you need to be careful when to use it. When the effect is applied, you can trigger it by using a whip move, and that puts the opponent in more hit stun, and it stalls them in the air in some situations. It also disappears when Lucy's hit. So the next move is a sprint attack, and it's like kind of her neutral skip. It's her lariat to get in, and then you can, for example, just RC. There are two follow-ups to it. There's the low follow-up that hits low, and there's the cross-up that crosses up and hits high. Well, in the corner, it doesn't cross up, but generally, if you're mid-screen, it will cross up. There's also situations where you're too far away. You can also cancel those moves early to be less predictable. So next move is sprint attack, and with the sprint attack, she can basically just neutral skip. It's kind of her lariat, and then RC, and then do whatever. She also has two follow-ups from it. With this one, you're -6, so it's still punishable, but you have the opportunity to cancel it into something else to avoid them from punishing it. So you have the low follow-up, which is this one, and then you have the high follow-up, which is this one. You can cancel those early to be less predictable, but if the opponent chooses to read you and close slash, for example, you will blow up. There's also a way for the cross-up to stay same side. So if you're at about this range and you cancel the move early, then you might either whiff or you might stay same side and hit overhead. But it's a little dangerous because if you whiff, you're gonna get punished. Otherwise, you might still just cross up. The next move is a gun, and I haven't found too many uses for it. There's definitely a combo use. You can use this in a combo, especially anything from 2H in the corner. But in neutral, it's a little dangerous. This move has a lot of recovery, so you want to use it sparingly or just use it from full screen to not get punished. You never want to use this like somewhere in this range, because as you can see, it's like 10 frames, and Kai can easily punish you for this. So it's better to be around here. Even here is a little dangerous, because if he jumps over, he also might be able to punish it, depending on the character. So be a little careful with the gun, but the gun is pretty good at interrupting opponents from setting up their full screen stuff. For example, like any type of zoner. You can interrupt Dizzy with it, you can interrupt Goldos with it, if he wants to set up his drone. It's pretty fast too, but as I said, it's not without dangers. So when it comes to a game plan, you can either defend and then try to poke them out, try to keep them out of your airspace, or punish them if they want to get in, if they try to get in from the air. If they approach from the ground, you can basically poke them a little or try to bait them into whipping something and then punishing them, going in. If you have enough meter, you can basically just use the sprint attack and do your thing. So now we're getting into combos. And the combos that I'm showing you are not the most optimal combos. There's one combo that I will show you that is an optimal mid-screen meterless combo. But it's pretty odd. I would not recommend learning that one specifically. But we're gonna start with the rather easy one. So this combo is a 5S starter. And you just basically use the short nerf circuit to extend the combo, and then you wall break. And that's pretty much about it. The next one is the optimal combo. You don't have to try and learn it. I think it's very inconsistent. And I don't really see people using it at all. But if you want to use it, it's up to you. Because it's so inconsistent, it's usually not worth it to go for this combo. But because it's optimal, that's why I put it in. That's the only reason. But as I said, it's not. You can't hit it every time because sometimes you gotta be close. For example, if I are this far away, it's usually not gonna connect, and you have to go for this route. The next combo I'm gonna show you is the low starter, and you will see this one decently often. But there's nothing much you can get from it. At most an OTK. So if you just, for example, like do this and then you're in the corner, that's the best you can get. Then sometimes you will find yourself just poking with 2K2D, and then you can go into the sprint attack, which is completely fine. It will carry you far enough, and then you can start your corner pressure. The next thing I want to talk about is Quickhack. There's fairly a decent amount of them, and they all do kind of different things. For example, there's Contagion, which does damage over time. Then there's Energy Siphon, which will restore your HP if you hit the enemy. There's Algorithm Malfunction, which is pretty important. It's pretty decent for extending your combos and making all those other buffs proc more. And there's Pacify, who will reduce your opponent's tension gauge. There's Optics Inhibition, who will make you like a little glitchy looking, a little fuzzy looking, and the opponent doesn't really see what's going on except for the whip. And to do the super, you basically do a half circle backward, and then you just press forward again and slash button. And then it triggers this menu where you can choose all the different buffs that you want. Some people are afraid that this will be optimized and you won't have to think much about what you're going to choose. But in my opinion, there's no proper way to optimize it because it depends on the situation. Of course, there will be just situations where you want to do the most amount of damage, and then you'll take Contagion together with Algorithm Malfunction, for example. but sometimes you're in the corner and then those contagion stacks won't do much, for example, and you will break the wall early, and then it doesn't make sense to only stack contagion, and you might go for something else like a resistance glitch or pacify or optics inhibition to set up a mix later. There's a lot of ways to combine all of those together, and I don't think there's always like the same optimal setup. There will be many, and it also kind of depends on your playstyle. I think a lot of people will either not use this at all, and some people will use this a lot. It just kind of depends. With Energy Siphon, I feel like there's a way where you can squeeze out another interaction. You can squeeze out enough HP to survive another mix, for example. I think it's possible. Yeah, but as I said, generally for damage or in a combo, you want to use Contagion with Algorithm Malfunction or Energy Siphon with Algorithm Malfunction. Um, there's other options too, but this is for HP generation, this is for damage. If you want to avoid your opponent from gaining too much meter, you can use Pacify. But generally, when you have pressure setup in the combo, that's when you use those three. Use resistance glitch so that they gain a lot of risk, and they are more afraid to press a button, or they feel more forced to press a button because of this hack. And then you use pacify so that they can't YRC you and get out of the corner, push you out. And then in combination, you use optics inhibition so they don't really see what's going on, what you're doing, and it makes the entire thing really scary. If you have all of those three, and then maybe if you have enough RAM for another one, yeah, it can be really dangerous. So basically, these three for combos, sorry, and then the bottom three is for pressure. It also depends in what order you apply them. Usually in a combo you will do Contagion first. It kind of depends, but it's usually Contagion first. One stack or two stacks, then it's Algorithm Malfunction to extend the combo and get your most out of your stacks. And then at the end you can throw in a Pacify. I don't think you have enough RAM for that, but Optics Inhibition to set up some mix afterwards to make them a little scared. Whatever you want to do, or another Contagion stack, who knows. You do whatever you want. And those all have different upload speeds, so those who cost the least RAM, for example, Optics Inhibition and Optics Inhibition and Contagion, they're the fastest. And then Algorithm Malfunction is the slowest with 13 RAM. You have a total of 24 RAM, so be careful what you spend it on. There's also a limit of how many stacks you can have. You can at max have 4 stacks of something, and as soon as you have 4 stacks, the menu auto closes and you're back to the combo or to the setup, whatever you're doing. Generally, you're using Quickhack after you use the charged monowire, or you're using it after you did a sprint, and then you get a really nice combo here. So let me show you some. So the first combo actually utilizes 6H a lot. We're going to choose these hacks in this order. I'm going to do this slowly. And then we're going to do 6H, delay the 2S, charge this one, and do the same combo again into wall break, and then we're going to finish it with a monowire whip. So for the next combo, you'll be using this a lot neutral when poking at the opponent, and then kind of capitalizing with a combo using Quickhack. And then we use Pacify here, walk forward, get the combo, and just finish it. In this combo we'll have a low start again, except this time we can extend it with a quick hack. And then we'll use the sprint attack to get in. And at the end we can't actually charge the monowire. We have to do the uncharged version, or you can just do the sprint attack. Now we're getting into Blockstrings, and there's a decent amount of Blockstrings that we have. For the starter, we can just do 6H, for example, and that will beat about any button. I think it's just a 1 frame gap. You definitely cannot mash on it, but it's a very small frame trap, and you won't get much after it. So if they block it, you basically have to end your pressure in some kind of way. You should rather use this one, and this is what I do a lot of times. A lot of times I'm just going to run up 5S and then do a 2S or 2SS, depending on what I want to do afterwards. There's a lot of possibilities, but first I'm going to show you that the 2SS actually has a gap in between. You can delay it a little, but there's not that big of a window, and most of the time it won't really hit people unless they're mashing like crazy. So keep that in mind. So as you can see, he's getting hit when I did the 2SS and delayed the second part a little bit. However, the frame trap is very, very small and the window is not that big. So most likely, most people won't get hit by it. Except they're mashing like crazy. But I just wanted to mention it, just in case. Then there's the classic frame trap of doing a delayed 2H. And you also get a combo of it, whatever you want to do. Then if nothing is going to hit him, at the end you can always frame trap with a mono wire. And usually if they mash, you also get a nice combo. You might get to break the wall. It's not a good idea normally to mash on it, but that way you can condition them not to press, and then you can just use the charged mono wire from a little up closer and get a nice setup. Then from 5SS you also have the opportunity to frame trap with a 5H afterwards. But the window again is a little tight and people won't be mashing that much, I guess. So really what you're going to do most of the time is either from 5H to S, because there's a big cancel window here. You're also going to just 5S, run up 5S a lot if they're not mashing. And from 2H, because there's another gimmick that I'm going to show you. If you're somewhat close, if you're decently close, you can do a grab. And then they kind of have to guess between if you're going to do a grab or if you're going to do a 2H. And if they are mashing on a 2H, or if they try to attack it and they fail, you will get a massive counter hit combo. So when you're in the corner and you kind of condition them to not press after your 5S because of your delayed 2S, or after your delayed 2S because you're pressing 5H, you can start kind of incorporating the charged monowire pressure into it. So this is one of the best spots in my opinion. Here's like a little too close because people are still scared of you throwing them. But if you're like about here, then people are more likely to block it and then just take the mix. You can also do it after 5H, but you have to be a little careful because sometimes it's too spaced out, and then they can, for example, if they FD you before, then they push you out too far and it's gonna whiff. Generally, when ending a combo, there's some people who say that monowire is not that rewarding and then that you shouldn't really use it as an ender. But I don't really see an option, because the other option of ending your string in a special is sprint attack. And the problem with sprint attack is that you have to kind of gamble after you're doing this and you're -6 and you don't have meter. If you have meter, it's fine. I think I would also rather go for sprint attack because I have the opportunity to do like a setup afterwards. But if I don't have meter, I'm just gonna go for the monowire. If they mash on it, I get a counter hit. If they don't, I'm kind of far out. I'm pretty safe here. But if I do the sprint attack, I'll be close up. I'll be -6, and I'm more likely to get punished. So it's very unsafe. Well, it kind of depends. You can gamble, right? It could be that they are waiting for the overhead for a delayed low or something, and then you can backdash. Or they think you're going to backdash and then you go for the high instead, or you go for a delayed low or whatever. It just kind of depends, but this is a little more dangerous. You're more minus in the face of the opponent. It's I think I like monowire ending a little more. So yeah. Then next for setup, as I said, you can always kind of do some OTG. This is just a very basic one to kind of carry the opponent into a corner. One of the most important setups that most players use. If you don't use this, you should, because it's very strong, it's very powerful, and it sets up a really strong mix, and it corner carries also a little. So it's kind of irrelevant what your starter is. It's just very important that in the end, you're basically just doing a wild assault into a charged wire, and what that's gonna give you is basically a really strong 50-50, a very strong strike throw. And as you know with the mono wire, if they're affected by the status effect, and you hit them with any wire related move, or like any move that uses the wire, then you will get a combo, and that even applies to the throw. And it gives you combos that other characters normally wouldn't have. But you have to spend a bit of your burst meter, but it's gonna be worth it. Also, if they mash on you, it's safe. You will punish them because of the God Crush effect. You will throw them at the same frame, or maybe even earlier, then their move will come out, probably earlier. If it's on the same frame, your throw will always win. But I think it might even come out earlier. I'm not entirely sure. But you will always stuff their mash attempt. Then, in general, another thing you can do if you have the applied effect is do like a quick overhead with a jumping heavy slash. But you're gonna be a little punishable even if the effect is applied and you're hitting them. You can double jump though, there's some options. You have to kind of hit confirm a little bit, make sure if it's hitting or not. And then you can even, okay, maybe not this move, or you have to do a double jump again and then do the wire dive, for example. Otherwise, you can just jump back and then be safe. Fairly safe. They're probably gonna chase you, but that's the price you gotta pay if you do something like this. Another thing that I found on Twitter is when you get a throw, you get like a high-low setup with this. So after you throw, you do like you jump you jump JPP and then you backdash and do like a fast overhead. The reason I'm doing 2D here is because if you use 2K, it's going to whiff, and 2D is hitting right when they wake up at their meaty timing. So if I use 2K, it's going to whiff, and then they're maybe going to punish you, depending how ready they are. Now I'm going to show you something that I was kind of working on myself. I tried to refine it a little bit. And it's basically when you do the sprint attack overhead, the cross up. I tried to get some mix from it, some high-low. There were some versions that I went through. They were not as powerful. They were fairly easy to fuzzy and to react to. But I think I found a decent one. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to drift RC, then JK with, and land a 2K. That's the low version. The high version would be to drift RC forward and do JPP. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you the low version first. There's the low version. And this is the high version. So this part is a little iffy because it takes a bit of time. But I think it's way better than what I used to. I used to do this with a JS, and as you can see, it takes a little longer, and I think it gives the opponent a little more reaction time, a little more time to react to it, and that's why I think it's just better to drift down and then do like a whiff JK. But in general, it's a pretty nice tool. You can always like try to incorporate some other mix with it. For example, you like frame trapping them, or you're after the JPP, you're going to run up and throw them. There's a lot you can do. I think it's fairly okay. It's not as good as what Soul has with Bandit Bringer, in my opinion, but this comes pretty close. Actually, another thing I forgot to mention. I'm just gonna put this at the end of the video. I totally forgot to speak about this. I completely forgot, and it's actually somewhat important. Something that you will use a lot in higher ranks. And what you can basically do is you can cancel your mono wire, and this is important when running pressure. When they think you're going to do mono wire, and then you can run up and throw them or continue your pressure. And that's also one of the reasons why I think mono wire is a better ender than just doing the sprint attack, because you have the opportunity to kind of scare them. So if you cancel it, you can do like a sprint attack afterwards, kick, sprint attack. Obviously doesn't do much without short nerf circuit. Or you can kind of extend it with like a 2k 6H and to charge mono wire, then at least you'll get the short nerf circuit. Hold on. There we go. And then you can work from here. But there's probably like a lot of more setups. I just haven't really looked at them that much. But I think it's a really nice just pressure reset tool. Kind of in a way what Johnny has. But there's like a minimum amount of frames that you need to charge it for. So it's always 26 frames. You can cancel it earlier. You can't do like 5 frames or something. That would be a little crazy. But yeah, it's still pretty decent. Still pretty good. Just wanted to put that in, and now we're actually going to end the video. And now we're pretty much at the end of the guide. I hope you guys could learn something. I hope I answered every question. If you have more questions, just leave them in the comments so I can try to answer them. And I'll see you in the next video.